One of the most pivotal points of my business journey here at the Hub was the point where I realized the business that I was building was going to work, and now it was time to grow. But how do I manage this growth as it's finally starting to come? It was a really interesting spot to be in because just figuring out first how to build a business that's going to grow, that's the hard part, right? That's step one. But once you start to hit a point of significant growth in your business, or you just know you're plateauing and you're ready for whatever that next level is going to be, that's really important to figure it out, because I think on the outside, we all look at that moment and go, okay, great. I can figure out all the internal things, right? But to grow, I must need more marketing and more Facebook ads. And we look at growth as such an external factor. But what I realized in that moment for us at the Hub was growth was really more of an internal factor. What we needed in order to grow and scale our company was actually better organization. It was building the right team culture. It was figuring out how to get our team rowing in the same direction, and also how to take our business from being a relatively flat business model, meaning everyone on the team answered to me personally. I was the bottleneck of the business, yes, and move our model instead to have leadership, which allowed me, frankly, to figure out how to sleep at night, because I knew it wasn't just me making the most important decisions in the company, but it was our entire team of leadership who had the business's best interest at heart. And not only did they know the things we were working on that gave them the best interest of the business, but they also had to know all of the financials and all of the data and all of the numbers of the business so they could be empowered to make those decisions. Now, as an entrepreneur and a founder, sometimes it's hard to give up that control to build up a leadership team around you that really is going to optimize your business internally and allow it to scale externally. You guys, today I'm so excited because I'm bringing you behind the scenes on this process, a journey that I started a few years ago when Eric first started to come to work for the Boutique Hub, and he looked into and discovered a process called EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. It actually comes from a book by Gino Wickman called Traction, which I'm sure some of you have probably read. Once we dug into the book Traction and really thought long and hard about how we could start to implement it and talked to friends who had also read the book and started to implement it, we realized we needed some help. We needed a coach. We needed somebody who could hold us accountable and over the course of time, stand by us in the Boutique Hub as we started to implement EOS and make sure that we're actually doing it the right way. Insert my friend and personal business coach, Tom Wesner. Tom's joining me today on the podcast, and we're going to be talking about what it's really like behind the scenes for him to work with us, our entire leadership team at the Boutique Hub, what our journey's been like implementing EOS, what you can learn from EOS, and how you can begin to implement this program as well. So I am so excited. I'm a little nervous. I'm bringing you totally no holds bar behind the scenes today, but I think you're going to get so much out of this, because when we think about growth, you guys, I'll be honest, when I thought about, our mission and our vision and our focus and our values, it's easy to push those things off of your to-do list because you don't understand their value and their importance and how they're actually going to help you scale. Once you go through those things, however, and you really build a solid foundation and company culture and you're all rowing in the same direction, it is absolutely life-changing. So get ready, meet my personal coach, Tom, as we talk about the Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Let's talk about your business, strategy, and the juicy details of what actually works, from mainstream fashion to fashion on Main Street, and the entire ecosystem behind it. How do we scale your company and do it with the balance and the happiness that we all seek? Let's hear from those insiders, experts, and strategists that actually make it happen. I'm your host, Ashley Alderson from the Boutique Hub, and I can't wait to chat.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast this week. This is new. I'll say this is new. We're totally flipping the script this week on the podcast, and you guys are going to get a behind the scenes look at what we have gone through at the Boutique Hub, because today I'm so excited, Tom, to have you here. You're our coach. You're my coach at the Hub. And so you're going to get all the juicy details behind the scenes of what it's really like at the Boutique Hub. But we're going to talk about lots of things you guys can self-implement in terms of EOS as well. So Tom, thanks for being here today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm a little intimidated. I'm wondering, like, how many details we're going to get into, and I'm going to go, oh, crap. I need to work on that after we get off this podcast today. So don't hold back. That's my advice. So if you guys are listening, some of you have heard me talk about EOS inside of the Hub or at the Boutique Summit or in our mastermind. Some of you may be brand new to what is EOS. So Tom, will you just take a minute and explain what is EOS? How did we get here? The books and everything?
Sure. What is EOS? It's not a fitness program. There is a fitness program out there called EOS. EOS stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's a business system, not a digital online system. It's a manual way, a system of organizing your human energy in your organization, organizing them to achieve three things we call vision, traction, healthy. Getting your vision and your plan for the future crystal clear, getting people to understand that vision, understand they're part of the plan, getting your people to work with focus, discipline, and accountability. And third, work as a healthy, highly functional team that enjoys working together and supporting each other in a healthy manner.
That's a great explanation. I look at it as most businesses get started, most entrepreneurs get started, and they operate like a bunch of squirrels running in 12 different directions. Yeah. And EOS is your opportunity to put all your squirrels on the same track and get them all pulling in the same direction. Can you take it a step further and break down like the wheel and the six parts of
there are the business system. Well, first of all, the EOS business system tools and disciplines were really discovered and pulled together by the founder. His name is Gino Wickman, and he pulled that material together because he studied the top 5% of entrepreneurial businesses, and he really took a look at what is it that they're doing different than the other 95% to be so successful. And so he pulled together this business system that we call EOS, based on the fact that every business is dealing with thousands of issues, and the top 5% that we're hitting out of the park strengthen 6 key areas. We call them components of the business. The first is the vision component, and I'll just talk through them just at a high level to answer your question, Ashley.
Yep.
The vision component, strengthening that, is getting your vision for the long term, 7, 3, 1 year, your values crystal clear. Everyone understanding that and wanting to be a part. The second component, and some of you probably heard of the book Good to Great, and this is where Gino got this. The second component is the people component. You got to have the right people in the right seats. If you get the right people in the right seats, everything else tends to fall into place. The third component is you got your vision, your plan clear. You got right people in the right seats. They know their part in the plan, and they're operating off facts, figures, objective data versus feelings, emotions, egos, and subjective data. And when you get those three things going, vision, plan, right people, right seats, we're operating off data, the issues and opportunities just become crystal clear, the really important ones. And so you get your organization really comfortable with surfacing issues, opportunities. We've got a 3-step process for getting to the root of those issues and opportunities and solving those with to-dos, actions, owners, outlets for completion. The fourth component is the process component. Every business has a set of core processes, like your HR process, your marketing process, your sales process, operations, service, product delivery, finance process. And the goal is to identify what those are, document, simplify, and make sure everyone's following those consistently. That creates efficiency, scalability, makes your life more fun. And the last component is traction. That's everyone in the organization knowing their part in the plan and operating every day with focus, discipline, and accountability, advancing your company forward to hit your long-term vision. Now, I did mention, it sounds like this is relevant for maybe larger organizations. It can be applied, and my wife and I apply this to our own coaching practice, a 2-person company. It's relevant for a 2-person company. It's relevant for a 5. I have businesses that are 1,000 people or more. It's relevant and it scales. You just use it in a lighter weight fashion for a smaller company, 1, 2 people.
Okay. I want to break down both of those today. And we can use, the boutique hub as an example of how you implemented with us in each of those areas. But
Mhm.
we'll talk about how if you're a solo entrepreneur, where to start implementing as well. Um, how did you and Susan first get into EOS? I want to know the backstory a little bit. I don't know that I've asked you that
Well, we
question.
both have started and exited our own small businesses.
Okay.
I was into software engineering. She was into consulting and project management. So that's where we kind of cut our teeth in small entrepreneurial businesses and our experience.
Mhm.
As Ashley said, chasing a lot of shiny objects, everyone wearing multiple hats. These were smaller
Yeah.
businesses. And that's what you have to do. We've also both worked in Fortune 500 and 100 companies, where at scale, you have to have systems,
Yeah.
discipline in place. You have to have all those components that I talked about need to be there to organize and mobilize a lot of human energy. So we've both been in corporate organizations where we've seen the EOS practices at scale, and it really helps in the really successful businesses. We've also realized that we're entrepreneurs. We enjoy working in the small, fast moving organizations like Ashley's Boutique Hub, and we thrive on that. And at some point in our career, we realized that we had the knowledge, experience for startups, large businesses at scale, that we wanted to take that knowledge and really turn around and start helping other entrepreneurs achieve the success that is possible by running really more efficient businesses and pulling less hair out of their heads.
Isn't that the truth? So, behind the scenes, you guys, I'll kind of give you some light in terms of our journey to find Tom and to find EOS. Um, and I would say Eric is the biggest key component of this for us because, Tom, as you know, Eric's background is more corporate and, he's worked with several large, very large companies. And when he was watching the boutique hub from the beginning first take off, his question was always, why don't you have SOPs? Why don't you have processes? Why aren't you tracking this data? Where is your data? It's all these challenging questions that, well, A, caused a lot of fights within our marriage, I'll just be honest, but challenge me to think, oh, in order to grow and scale this thing, I'm going to have to buckle down and find these more corporate feeling things that Eric's telling me about. And there was really two really critical moments for us when we started to realize we needed to go more down this path. One was at the very beginning when it was just me by myself, trying to pay myself, trying to figure out if this company would ever get traction. And just the very basics of implementing, some of these things on our own, be it hiring our first employee and understanding some data and just starting. But then once our business grew and we came to find you, Tom, all of a sudden I think we'd hired 10 people in like a very short period of time. We were growing super fast and we were realizing that all of our squirrels were running in very different directions. And we would have meetings and there would be tears and there'd be frustration because we were all chasing different shiny objects that we all thought were important, but really we were all pulling separate directions. So Eric, again, was doing the research trying to figure out, man, there's got to be a model we can follow. There's got to be something that can help us get this ship on the right track. And in talking to several entrepreneurial friends of ours, one had a large car dealership that had been a family business for a number of years. Another had a large like lawn care dealership. Uh, and he was asking, how did you guys with, 500 employees or more, how'd you do this? And every one of them came back and said, EOS, read the book Traction.
Yeah.
You have someone hired that can help you, get a coach. And so starting with the book Traction, we'll link it up in the show notes for you guys. So that was our journey. So Eric started to look for coaches and I had met Tom's wife, Susan, through Management One. Many of you guys listening know Management One. So that was a great first introduction to say, oh, we need some help. This is maybe too much for us to do on our own at this point with the number of employees we had. So before we go further in our process, Tom, I'm just curious on the difference when you talk to people about having a coach versus self-implementing. How do you help people make that, decision?
Well, ultimately, Ashley, it's not my decision, as you indicated. It's helping people decide. And generally, there are a lot of self-implementing companies, just to be honest. And either they self-implement because they have a financial hurdle, right? Hiring a coach is too expensive based on where they're at in their growth trajectory, meaning they don't have enough revenue or profit to afford it. But also in their journeys, some realize that just like in a fitness program, right? We all know kind of how to eat right. We all know kind of what an exercise program. So many people struggle, though, to make the commitment and follow the process and be accountable for following the diet prescription, following the discipline of proper form and the exercise, following the routine of getting up and showing up, right? And putting in the hard work. And a coach oftentimes helps people overcome some of those challenges and provides encouragement, insight, coaching, teaching, and accountability. And so in lots of cases, when you get to a point, when you're at 5 or 10, 15 people and your revenue is starting to feel and profit starting to feel like it's at a good place and you want to accelerate that, think about a coach can help you accelerate your trajectory to achieve your next level of growth in your organization. I don't know if that answered your question, but.
No, it does. And I think it's so true for coaching in general. Just, I could speak volumes, not only about our experience together, Tom, but a number of coaches I've had and how, they help you avoid mistakes, but they help you get where you're going so much faster. So that is very helpful.
Yeah.
All right. So here's what I want to do. I want to break down the EOS model in terms of the boutique hub and kind of walk through how we've learned these different pieces along the way, starting with vision. Can you first just break down what it means, how you track your 5-year plan, your 3-year model, your 1-year plan, and your quarterly rocks, what that system looks like? Because I think a lot of businesses just start with what's my goal for the next year, but they aren't really looking long term at where they're headed.
Well, absolutely. Can I ask you a question first, Ashley?
Yeah.
What state were you in? And what led you, for your audience, what led you to pick a business system for you personally? Because I remember some of the things that you mentioned when we first met. What would you share with your audience that led you personally to have a conviction that you needed a system for your organization?
That's a good question. So when we were making the decision to work with you, we had talked to several, I would say, consultants, and they had talked about coming in and doing, here, we're going to do a SWOT and then we're going to do these things. And they were kind of like making the recipe up as they went in terms of how they were going to help us. And they were all great suggestions and probably would have worked fine for the moment. But we knew that eventually whatever, good came from that would probably wear off and we would go back to our old habits. So we knew that we needed something that was going to stick with us for the long term. And it was a system not just for right now, but for 10 years from now. And so when we had talked to other companies who had gone through EOS, every single one of them said the same thing. And this was fascinating. They said, I would never go back to doing my business without EOS. And now at the point we're at, what are we, 2 years in?
Yeah.
It's tough. The first year, especially, I would say was really tough figuring it out. We still haven't got it completely figured out. We still are struggling, but I would say now the same thing. I would not go back to operating without EOS.
Yeah. It is just a logical, practical way to organize people and get stuff done.
Yes. I love that the language is all there for us.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing to organize our leadership team, and really developing our leadership team is something we did through EOS.
Yeah.
But then all of the language to cascade messages to the rest of the team, like, it's all done for us. And I'll show, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, I've got my manual here. So I have this whole binder that we get together, every quarter and work with Tom and then again for our annual retreat. But all this is done for us and we just work the process. So that takes a lot of weight off of my shoulders, I would say.
Ashley, you raised a good point. And so I know there are other operating systems out there and seminars, like take Tony Robbins' seminar. What
Yeah.
EOS has is not only the business system tools and disciplines, but the motivating seminar attributes, but it also has a stepwise process for application. And what we find in the entrepreneurial space is most businesses fail because of weaknesses in execution. And EOS provides an execution framework. As Ashley said, we're 2 years into this, and there's a stepwise approach that has psychology, a methodology to each step that's applied. And it is all in traction. And so you can self-implement the steps. A coach will just take you through those steps much more faster without some of the pitfalls and mistakes you might make along the way doing it yourself for the first time.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
All right, Tom, let's talk about vision. And you can use the Boutique Hub as an example of how we broke these things down. But I just want to get everyone's heads wrapped around planning beyond a year and then planning by quarter.
Okay. I'm going to preface this for your audience, which is, look, this works for construction companies. It works for apparel companies. It works for healthcare companies, pet hospitals, accounting firms. The way you run a small business is the same, regardless of the vertical you're in. And why is it? Because it's about aligning human energy around a common vision. And so the vision, Ashley asks the question, what's in the vision? There are 8 questions we walk a leadership team or you as an individual business owner through. First, what are your core values? Those are your guiding characteristics of what you want to get out of your culture and your organization. Second, we talk about your core focus. What's your purpose, your passion, your cause? And Ashley, you can come back to highlight what you built out as the Boutique Hub answers to some of these that you think are most relevant. But so values, core purpose, call that the sweet spot of your operations where you want to focus all your energy. We build out basically your long-term, we call it the 10-year target. Could be 5, 7, 10 years. Where are you headed long-term? Lots of businesses use revenue, profit. Some businesses don't get excited about revenue, profit. They have maybe clients reached or patients served or pets, taken care of. Something more meaningful. So you get values, core purpose, 10-year target, and then we look at what are your target markets? How many target markets are you serving? It could be more than one. And not-for-profits have inbound donor targets and they have outbound product service targets. So not-for-profits can get a little more complicated. But for Ashley, let's say she's got 3 or 4 different target markets. For each of those target markets, part of that is getting your leadership team or yourself. What are the priorities for those target markets? And for each of those target markets, who is your target prospect and what message do you want to share to maximize your return on invested sales and marketing resources? And what are your differentiators? 3 differentiators, plus or minus 1, that really are going to attract people in that target market. Then we move to what's your 3-year picture? And we set the 3-year picture as you can think of manifesting, visualizing where your organization is going to be in 3 years from now. Your revenue, your profit. Take your magic paintbrush out. You got right people, right seats, core processes in place. You're growing year over year at 10% revenue growth. Your profits tracking. You've expanded internationally or into different states or regions. What does it look like? Everyone's working harmoniously. You're having fun. You've got time for your own personal endeavors and pleasures. You paint the picture. Studies show that the more you can visualize that, the more people in your organization you can get to visualize that, the more likely you are to happen. We call that the vision side of your vision traction, vision execution plan. Then once we get that vision clear, you get that vision clear for yourself, then we drop down to the plan side, which is what's the 1-year goals, revenue, profit? What are the 3 to 7 things that really are going to make a difference for the next year for your business? Very important here for visionaries. 3 to 7 things, that seems so constraining. Studies show that, if everything's important, nothing's important. So really crystallizing and sharpening your goals down to the 3 or 7 that are going to make the biggest difference in the next year is so important. It allows you to say no to other things because sometimes our appetite gets so big, especially when we get so confident in our growth ability. Sometimes we get carried away. So it keeps us grounded. And your staff is your visionaries. Geez, we can't do all 27 things, which 3 to 7. So anyway, and then we start a 90-day world. So you've got your 7-year, your 3-year plan, your 1-year plan, and then we start a 90-day cycle. So every 90 days, what are the most important things that need to get done to move you 1 quarter to your 1-year goal? Your 1-year goal is moving you 1 year toward your 3-year goal. Your 3-year goal is moving you halfway to your 7-year goal. We start that cycle every quarter. Then every year we take a relook at your vision, where you're headed longer term, and you make updates because the market changes. Your desires change. I'll stop there, Ashley. Give it back to you.
Well, I want to pick on a couple of those that I think are important for everyone who's listening. So one of the first things that I think was impactful for us when we started to implement the vision piece of this was nailing down our core values and our core focus. And I know that sounds like, if you're listening, you're like, why do I need that? Why do we need to spend time on that? And honestly, when you're going through the exercise of building it, it can feel a little bit like you're banging your head against the wall, right? Like, how's this really going to impact me? It's just a couple of words, right? But it's so important, and it has proven to be so important for us. So I'll show you, Tom. Beth made these for our leadership team and for the whole company. So it's just like a little corrugated sign that has our company values on it. But when we use these, we hire by them. We do all of our reviews by them, we reward by them, we fire by them. Everything that we do revolves around these values. And I don't know if it was when we were doing this, Tom, or when we were implementing our accountability chart, but at some point you had told me that there's kind of a rule of thumb that when you start to implement EOS, a certain percentage of your team will either leave or you'll let them go in a certain period of time. What was that stat?
I'd say, based on my own personal experience with my clients, it's around probably 20%. So 20% of your leadership team, or 2 out of 10 or 1 out of 5, isn't the right fit. They don't share your values, or they're not what we call want to have the capacity to fill the seat. And in some cases, you can move them to a different seat. The values misalignment is the biggest issue. Studies show that we hire for skills match and we fire for values misalignment. So if you have your values clear, and as you said, Ashley, you use that to interview, attract people, or repel people, because if people don't share your values, they're less inclined to come join you. That can save you a lot of time, because letting someone go and retraining them is a very costly expense, plus has cultural impacts to the rest of your organization if you're turning and burning people through your organization.
Yeah. What you just said really popped out at me. I've not heard you say that before, that we often hire for skills and fire for values. That's so true. So having your values in check really does change how you completely operate. And so that 20% stat for us, Tom, and you've been there through all these conversations, but we did have a few people leave, and we ended up letting go of, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 people along the way, because all of a sudden, you always have that one employee that you're like, okay, something's off, something's not right. This isn't working. We're always, reviewing this person's performance for whatever reason. But once you know what your core values are, then you're like, oh, light bulb, this is why we're not aligned in this one particular area. So I would say, if you're self-implementing or you're listening, just really going back to using those values day to day is a really critical step.
Well, and if you think about that, lots of leaders get frustrated with their staff because they're not living the values. And then they stop for a moment and they think, well, I've never really written my values down.
Yeah, do they know?
I've never really communicated that I expect people to adhere to these values.
Yes.
So if you haven't done that, you haven't written them down, you haven't communicated them and set your expectations and told people they're going to be accountable for living them, it makes it really challenging to really nail people down when they're not performing. How are they not performing? They get frustrated too because it wasn't clear. So part of the process is having that clarity up front,
Mm-hmm.
communicating that you have them, you expect people to adhere to them. Hopefully you're hiring people that are natural fit. Some
Yeah.
people aren't, they need some encouragement. So it's kind of a precursor step to actually doing the performance management and corrective action plan.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
What would you say besides core values is the other, like in terms of vision, the other thing that you hear from companies that is most important to them? And they're like, wow, this was a light bulb moment for us.
Um, well, I'm going to use the example of a brother-in-law that runs a manufacturing company. He was self-implementing EOS, and he had the vision laid out with a couple of his senior leaders, his brothers, his partner. And I
Mm-hmm.
was assessing his self-implementation and asking him, so how far down in the organization have you shared that vision and the plan? Have you enlisted other people? Do other people believe in it? And he's like, why would they need to know? They have tasks to do on the manufacturing line or in the field, or it's like they don't need to know the whole vision. Well, think about yourselves. If you're looking for a place to land, a company to go work for, which one are you going to work for? One that has a vision and a plan. They want to take the Super Bowl. They want to make it to the playoffs, or, we're just going to be out picking daisies on the field. Like, which one do you want to go? You want to go for, Dan Pink has a video, What Motivates People? Purpose, autonomy, and mastery. It's not motivation. So that
Yeah.
vision is your purpose. It's where you're going, and you're going to attract higher level of talent that are more aligned with where you must longer term. If you have that clarity and you can communicate it at the point of a prospect looking to join your organization.
Yeah. It's funny, Tom, as I think about that, I think that the benefit for us anyway of really communicating our overall vision and our goals, our plans, but also the data that goes hand in hand with it. The change that I've seen it make for us is when people know where they're going, they're more apt to put the needs of the company and that purpose and vision first versus what's in it for me.
Yeah.
Without the vision, I feel like we just would have a team of people saying, how do I make this great for me? How do I make this easy for me? How do I make this fun for me? So
Yeah.
it's a completely different shift in how the team operates when they all know where they're headed.
Absolutely. There is a Gallup pullout that's done every year, and the stats I have are probably dated a couple years, but it is on employee engagement. They surveyed, let's say, hundreds of companies, employees top to bottom. And what they found was 82% of employees were deemed not engaged in the
Wow.
workplace. What does not engaged mean? It means they don't understand the vision, the plan. They don't understand their part. They're not really rowing as hard or as in rhythm with everyone else as they could be. They're just showing up, checking boxes, collecting paychecks. That's a missed opportunity to really tap into the potential of each individual. And this Gallup poll basically said 82% of employees are not engaged. And then it broke it down. Why is that? And I'm just going to generalize. 40% had no idea what the vision and the plan of the company was. 40% had no idea what their contribution, how it related to the vision and the plan.
Yeah.
And 38, something like that, percent had no idea the state of the company as it was working towards the vision. Where was it? Is it on track or not on track? So,
Yeah.
we employees, if we don't have that information, how can we be engaged and motivated? So part of the
Yeah.
tools that Ashley's implemented there with EOS are to make it clear what those things are, to share it with people, to get their buy-in, their involvement, their passion, right? And motivation to help so that you can give them more monkeys versus taking more monkeys off their
Yeah.
back. Allows you to delegate more responsibility to your employees, and they're more motivated to pick it up.
Yeah. I will say that that's a little bit intimidating. And when we get to talking about data, I want to talk about that more specifically, because that was one thing I was really scared to share with people was data. But by way of sharing where we're headed in terms of rocks and what is the 90-day focus for us, that was hugely beneficial. So can we talk about that for just a minute? Like
Yeah.
the making the rocks really smart and really making sure our whole company is aligned in rocks, that has been a game changer for us. And specifically for me as a visionary, because when you met me, I would focus on 37 different things all at once.
Yeah.
And then y'all had to rein me back in.
Well, it's funny that I really appreciate, Ashley, that you're using the terminology. And I know I use the terminology a lot, like EOS and rocks and other things, but people may not know what rocks are. A definition of a rock is really a project. It has a start date and end date. The intent of rocks or projects, as we call them, really priorities, projects. They help move your company forward on your plan and your vision. So you can imagine a project might be instilling an HR process that you don't have. That might be a project. Once that HR process is defined in place, people are trained and following it, that project is over. So it has a start and an end. What Ashley's talking about is once you have that vision and plan clear, we start this 90-day cycle, which is what are the projects or rocks, the 3 to 7 that need to get done for the company in the next 90 days. And every 90 days, you're resetting those. But as she called them SMART. Some of you probably know what SMART means. It's creating a project or a rock that is specific. This is the SMART acronym. You can Google it. SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So on a 90-day cycle, it's time-bound by 90 days. Really, just to simplify the SMART is, do you have an outcome that is quantifiable and easy to assess whether you completed that outcome or not? So, did you complete the HR process plan? Yes or no? Versus, I'm going to work on the HR process plan. Well, working on the process plan might be 2-minute review, or you can kind of check the box. Yeah, I touched it, but we really want really clear, crisp definitions for what the outcome is going to be. And Ashley said 3 to 7 for the business, 3 to 7 for each leadership team. We often emphasize for visionaries that less is more because they tend to think more is more. Less is more because you want to hold people accountable. The goal is 80% of those projects or rocks need to be complete in that 90-day cycle. That is the goal, 80%. 100% is okay, but then the question is, are you challenging yourself? If you get below 80%, it's like, okay, so you got opportunity for improvement. Let's take lessons learned and improve goals 80%.
Perfect.
Hey, it's time to save the date for our next Boutique Summit, the largest conference for our industry, just for boutique owners, e-commerce stores of all types, and wholesale brands. June 9th and 10th, coming back to Dallas. We can't wait to see you there with several speakers, tons of breakout sessions, your very own private trade show. Did I mention swag? Plus an opportunity to network with retailers just like you, ready to scale and grow your business. You guys, we plan the Boutique Summit on the front end of the market happening at Dallas Market Center, so you can really get the most bang for your buck when you're traveling. Attend the Boutique Summit, stay for market, learn as much as you can, buy as much as you can, and get ready to grow and scale your business. June 9th and 10th, click the show notes to sign up, get the information, and save the date right now.
So I'll just give an example of how this looks for us at the Hub. So we'll have the 90-day rocks that our leadership team develops. And then each member of our team, as you said, has their own rocks in their department. So those of you who know Jeff, he leads our marketing team, or Ben, who leads our development team, or Samantha, who leads our wholesale and hub inventory team. Then they all have their own individual set of rocks that really feed to the company's rocks. And then in terms of ongoing operation, every week when we meet, whether it's our leadership team or it's our marketing team, or if it's an all company meeting, every meeting is started by going through those rocks and just saying, okay, are they on track or are they off track? And when they're off track, then we need to identify, discuss, and solve why are they off track and what are we going to do to get them back on track. So that's become a huge part of our culture, all the way through our team. And again, really getting us all pulling in the same direction. Those of you who are listening and you think, gosh, I go throughout my year and I get in the boutique hub and I see someone's saying, oh man, TikTok's killing it, I need to get on TikTok. Or I see, oh, emails are killing it, I need to get on emails. It's so easy to get overwhelmed with all these different projects and shiny objects that we see someone else having success with. But the truth is, we'll be much more successful if we really give that project a space on the calendar where we can really focus on it and make the most of it versus just trying to dabble in all these different shiny objects all the time. I see that almost every single day in the hub. So really aligning with those 3 to 7 things per quarter and not letting yourself squirrel is a game changer for us.
Very
Tom,
good.
Tom, let's move on. So that was vision, and we won't have time to cover all of the EOS model today. We'll just focus on 3: vision, people, and data.
Yeah.
But let's talk about people next. So you talked about me being the visionary for a second. And I would say most entrepreneurs are the visionary, right?
Yes.
Most are the big idea person.
Yeah.
But many of you listening, you know Beth. Beth is our right hand. She's our integrator. Many of you have a right hand. They're the person who actually comes and implements the things that you're working on or tells you your ideas are crazy and you need to slow down. So Tom, talk to me about just the visionary integrator relationship, but then also what does it mean to build a leadership team?
Good question. I'll talk about it in a sense of what are the key ingredients for success and moving to the next level using EOS. One is you have to have a visionary that's facing some challenges and they know what got them to where they are isn't going to get them to where they want to be. And they need to be open and honest and transparent in realizing I've got shortcomings, either within me, within my organization. This is why I'm pulling my hair out. I'm frustrated. Yeah. Somebody, and you're willing to seek help, right? So you're open to help. You're open to changing how you run the business, the visionary, because you know something more is possible. So the visionary's got the big ideas, should be working on the big ideas that are higher value. Second ingredient, so that's number one. Great visionary that's open to change, wants change, and is looking to change and is willing to change. Second is an integrator, kind of like a COO if you're thinking a larger scale organization, that helps implement EOS, keeps everyone working together on joint deliverables, keeps beating this cadence, this drum of focus, discipline, and accountability, running these weekly operations meetings. They often are responsible for running the weekly operations meetings, which is going around the table, checking with each individual. How are you in your rocks, your projects? Are they on track, off track? How is your scorecard? Any metrics on or off track? These surface issues, rocks off track, metrics off track. So, and then they facilitate the leadership team digging into the root cause of why a rock or a scorecard metric or a customer employee issue needs to be resolved, and then helping facilitate an owner, an action plan, and outlook for completion. Third is the leadership team. You have to have a leadership team that is all bought in, shares your values, is recognizing that this is the way the company's headed. They're bought into the process. They're rowing in the same direction, using the tools and disciplines to get the effective results. Is there more to your question?
No, that's helpful. So no matter what size your team is, right, you are the visionary, but I would say the first hire you make, if you're a solo entrepreneur, is an integrator. It is your right-hand person. It's right brain, left brain.
And the people that you have on the leadership team may not always be a perfect fit for the integrator. They may be good at sales or marketing. Doesn't mean they're good at integration, for example. So it is the second most important position for implementing EOS. There is a book, I mean, if you're interested in finding out more, it's called Rocket Fuel. It has a
Hmm.
profile and a self-assessment for a visionary and an integrator to take that basically says, what kind of fit are they? Because in lots of cases, like you, Ashley, in the beginning, you're visionary and integrator because
Hmm.
you're running around, not necessarily micro, but you're managing all the activity in the business and directing people to do what. Part of the evolution of EOS is it's freeing Ashley up to do visionary work, and her integrator is doing more of the day-to-day operation stuff that, frankly, most visionaries don't like doing, and
Yeah.
sometimes they're not even really good at,
Yeah.
because there's conflict, there's details, there's this maybe for visionaries kind of a boring, mundane, operational repetitiveness to it.
Yeah.
The right integrator loves this stuff. Like they thrive on it.
I think that was one of the hardest parts for me in terms of implementing EOS was letting go of the vine and stopping this ongoing me being the bottleneck of the business habit that I had, and just trusting that the team would step up and take on some of those day-to-day things that were really, really important.
Well,
And it was
Ashley,
operation.
talk
Oh, go
about
ahead.
expand on that a little bit, because here, we're so used to instant gratification or seminars where we go home and we flip the switch and okay, everything's
Yeah.
changed. Letting go is not a switch you can
No.
throw. It's a journey, right? And it
Yeah.
starts with kind of clarifying a lot of things and seeing who actually fits the pieces and who gets it and who's really operating with accountability in their seats. You're kind of inching your way down there, but verifying that individuals you're handing off to actually can do the work, or your business is going to fail, right?
Yeah, that's so true. It's not a overnight thing, and it's something you continually work on. I'm still working on letting
Yeah.
go today. But I can remember a couple of critical points for us, Tom. I mean, one, there's, the visionary integrator relationship. How much can I, trust this one person to step up and take on these
Yeah.
things that I'd been doing myself? Um, and then also the whole leadership team, not only me being able to trust them, but them being able to trust one another.
Yeah.
I remember one time, I don't even know if you were at our house yet. It was maybe the night before you came because we host our quarterly leadership meetings at our home and Tom flies in to be with us. But I can remember Jeff going around and like rallying the room, talking about how much we have to, in Jeff's language, F and trust one another.
Yeah.
And he was just getting everyone jacked up to say, hey, we really we have to completely 100% be able to trust one another and being open and honest about, the good and the bad,
Yeah.
and not letting anything fall through the cracks. And that was probably our very first or second, leadership team meeting, but I think that's gotten better over time as well. Our whole team now, leadership wise, just really gels.
Yeah.
Um,
And
goes all in.
you bring up a good point, because I would say part of the beauty or benefit of EOS is it's a structure that I said transcends verticals. It's a skeleton. It's not all the flesh. So part of what Ashley's talking about is we bring in other tools, or you can bring other tools to build out, we'll call it kind of some of the softer practices that
Hmm.
bring human energy together to work in harmony. So for an example, we use Lencioni's, right? 5 dysfunctions of a team, his basic trust pyramid to
Yeah.
building that trust that Ashley was just talking about. And it starts with, being open and honest, having healthy conflict. Healthy conflict leads to, right, commitment. Commitment leads to accountability, and accountability leads to results. So we bring those in as additional augmentation pieces, to help build what we call that third piece: vision, traction, healthy, team health, which ultimately we all know is so important. When your human energy is your engine, and that human energy, if it's healthy, working together in collaboration can achieve tremendous things.
Yes. Probably one of the things that we got the fastest results from when we implemented EOS, Tom, was when we went through the process of building out our accountability chart.
Yeah,
And not only the visionary integrator relationship, the leadership team, but then just team structure overall and where everyone fell on that accountability chart.
yeah,
And me stepping out of really, I guess I would say the integrator role, where everyone came to me with their problems. I was involved in every review conversation or all the hiring conversations. That's the first thing I stepped out of. And I would say, as I stepped out of that and allowed the integrator to come in, which is Beth, it also was Eric coming in and sharing that responsibility as well. Eric's such a people person and is just tremendous with motivating our team. So as I stepped out, now rather than the whole team of 25 coming to me with everything, they all have their individual leaders or managers to go to. And then ultimately they can go to Eric and Beth, who are having ongoing conversations with them about what's working, what's not, how can I help? And just continuing to make sure they're all in alignment moving forward. So if you're listening, like, please note, like, that is a huge opportunity for you to implement right away.
That's a good point. I'm trying to think of some ads, and I'm sitting here like thinking of a whole bunch of pictures because I'm a graphical person to kind of show this transition. But I think, Ashley, you mentioned earlier, when you're a startup organization, you have to wear multiple hats. But as you grow, you go from 2 people to 5 to 7. It's really important to start dividing up the responsibilities and actually getting the functions, we call them functions and responsibilities, and getting those clear so that as you start to grow, you can divide and conquer. You don't have to all be wearing multiple hats because you're probably not all experts at everything, even though you're willing to try and jump in and do some work. So the first step is beginning to identify the critical functions within your 2, 3, 4, 5 person organization.
Yeah.
You may be in multiple seats, or there may be a couple. The worst case is you've got multiple people in the same seat, because what we really want to see is clarity of responsibility and accountability. And by building this out, you also, for the future, you also identify, like Ashley sitting in 3 or 4 seats. This is not sustainable for the growth of our organization. So it helps you strategically plan. If Ashley's going to retract from a couple seats so that she can focus more on the visionary, which seats are you going to fill next? And because you have the clarity of functional responsibilities, accountabilities, that helps you decide what kind of person is going to want to have the capacity to fill that seat when you're ready in your growth trajectory to fill the seat. But first step, always stepwise approach, is having clarity of what primary functions do you have, and beginning to delineate the responsibilities so you can begin to have clarity of which seats you have, which seats you're filling, could be 10, 20, and then which seats you need to start narrowing yourself down to and filling with other people.
Yeah. So good. Right people, right seats.
Right people, right seats. Right people, values alignment, right seats, they get it, want to have the capacity to fill a seat. That also means the seat needs to be defined.
I think that's a big mistake a lot of small businesses make, is, as you said, the seat's not defined. They don't have clarity in their role.
Well, and they take pride, as they should, in that, well, everybody can do every job. Well, that works for a while until you start to get to 10 or 15 people. When you get to 10 or 15 people, or 7 or 8, or whatever the number is, you don't want everybody jumping in when you have a fire. You want the expert that has the responsibility and accountability to be the person that solves the problem. You don't want to have to be called to assemble a whole team of people to tackle a problem, or, filter out who should be or who shouldn't be involved.
Yeah, that's so true. And ultimately, I think we also, as entrepreneurs, wear this badge of honor. I've got this. I can do this. I'll just do it. It's quicker, faster, and easier if I just take it on. But no, it's finding someone, right people, right seats, that can take it on for you so you can do what you're best at.
Yeah, that's the dilemma for all of us as in leadership roles. Do I do it myself, or do I take a little extra time to teach somebody else how to do it? But if you do it yourself, you're going to be doing it yourself forever. And as you grow and scale, that list of things then you'll be doing is going to increase exponentially. So delegate and elevate yourself. Why don't you tell us, Ashley, about your experience of elevating yourself? You're now in a visionary seat, focused on visionary ideas that are worth X, versus less in the operational detail, which might be worth less than X. So how has that progressed for you? Because that's usually, for a visionary, the big win.
It's the ultimate goal. And I would say that everyone listening has the same goal I did. Like, we get to be an entrepreneur because we want freedom, flexibility, just an opportunity financially, right? But when we're stuck working in the day to day of the business, it's hard to recognize those things and really, take that opportunity. So I'll just speak like as a wife, as a mom, as a business owner, I want to have a life outside of the hub. I want to see my kids' basketball games. I want to go to every rodeo every weekend, and I want to have a successful business. And the beautiful thing is it can be and, it doesn't have to be or. You can have all of that. So the process for me of delegating and elevating, again, not being the bottleneck of my business, has definitely taken time. But I have found the more that I've been able to let go of things, the more creativity I have, the more I'm able to work on, I'll just say like CEO level activities, right? $100 an hour jobs versus $10 an hour jobs for easy math. The things that are really going to move our revenue profit target down the road or really set us up long term for where we want to go, or just to have more creativity in what we're already offering day to day. It's hard to be creative when you're working in the business and not on the business. So I feel like I've gotten my life back, which to me, that's like the number one EOS testimony I can give, Tom,
Yeah.
is I get and in my life.
I had just this same exact story. I had a session the other day. The CEO, this is for a not-for-profit. They take care of babies for mothers that have drug addiction. So it's called Hasab Nursery.
Wow.
She started her journey on EOS about a year ago. She said just yesterday, she was pulling her hair out. She would cry at night. She was working endless hours, totally frustrated, trying to manage the 15 or 20 staff members all on her own. She felt lonely, alone, overworked, frustrated, still passionate about her cause, but not knowing how long she could sustain it. Fast forward 9 months, a year on the EOS program. She's got a leadership team in place. They're right people, right seats. They're all taking ownership of a piece of her business. She feels like they're a family. She's got a support network. The work is allocated out. She's now got more free time. More importantly, more peace of mind that her business is fulfilling her legacy objectives and she's at peace and has a support group that knows what they're doing. She doesn't feel alone anymore. She feels in control and things are going down the right path. It was just, for me as a coach, like as a teacher, any one of you, that's like the total reward. That's what gets me up in the morning, is seeing that kind of transformation that's happened there. It's happened in the boutique.
Yeah. I love what you said, fulfilling her legacy objective, because I would agree that's kind of a big motivator for us. And I felt like in the past, it was Eric and I at night, talking on our pillow about all these things. But as you said, ownership as well. Our leadership team has taken ownership of fulfilling our legacy objective. And so we have peace of mind. Everyone wants what we want.
Yeah.
And it's not just on our shoulders to make these tough calls, but everyone has, a piece of that decision-making process, which, allows all of us to sleep at night.
In each one of these, I just think, when we talk about it, Ashley, it's like ownership. Like I could sit and managing my small business many years ago. It's like, how do I demand people take more ownership? I demand that. I like that. Ashley's got it. I want people taking more ownership. It's not a light switch again. This happened through a series of meetings where Ashley and Eric included the leadership team in shaping that vision, in shaping the plan, in identifying the priorities and rocks, and understanding the clients and customers and their values, and getting them involved and owning the planning and the solution, which leads to natural ownership and accountability. It's a journey. And, it takes some time to get people involved. And it takes some leadership up front, as Ashley said. It's a front-end investment. It takes a little extra work. If you pay the price and follow the process, you'll get the results.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Tom, the last piece of the model I want to talk about is data. And just for those of you taking notes, I just want to recap very quickly. There's 6 pieces of this model. So people and vision, which we've talked about. We're going to talk about data. The 3 that we won't get to today are process, traction, and issues, which we can hit on at the end just briefly what those are.
Yeah.
But data is so important because you can have the vision of where you want to go, and you can have right people, right seats, and your team all in alignment. But if you aren't accountable to the number at the end of the day, and this was a big problem for us because we did not share any numbers whatsoever with our team until traction. This was the thing that made me the sweatiest, Tom, was to talk about numbers and data. So can you explain, what we or how we look at this in EOS?
Well, I'm going to give you more two humanistic, maybe attempt to make this more life transformational examples to get you motivated around. Could you imagine? I use this example. I don't know if it's relevant to you or not, but I used to have a phobia about getting on airplanes. Like you're in a can that's going to be flying at 35,000 feet. It's life threatening, right? So fight or flight, pun intended. Can you imagine getting on an aircraft? Your life depends on it. And the pilot comes on and says his dashboard's out. We'll be flying through some storms, but I've done this route before. I'm just going to wing it. Like I'd get off that airplane as fast as I could. They couldn't keep me on the airplane. Your livelihood and many other people is dependent upon you flying your business aircraft. If you don't have a dashboard, where are you going? How do you measure what altitude you're at, what progress you're making? How do you, your speed, like you've got no bearings for quantifying where you're at in your journey. What needs to be fixed? What was the idiot light on, not on? Like, are you in trouble? Are you about to crash, or are you getting lift? So part of what I like to motivate is like when you think about it in that sense, this is life or death for your business. How could you not have a dashboard? And when we call a dashboard, it's really simple. 5 to 15 numbers, 5 to 15 different metrics that help you keep an absolute pulse on what's really important in your business. And maybe Ashley could talk about some examples, but each one of those metrics needs to have an owner. And that's not the visionary per se. That's how you distribute some of the work and accountability is each one of your staff members owns those numbers and keeping them on track, what we call is with a leading indicator goal and tracking the data. Leading indicator goal. Weekly at best, monthly second, and quarterly third, let's say. And we say leading indicator because if you're watching a metric, let's say it's revenue, on a weekly basis, to use a simple example, if that's off track from what you want to achieve in 1 or 2, 3 weeks, you see a pattern, you can course correct that before the end of the month or before the end of the quarter. So you want as tight a time span as you can on your leading indicators. You want owners, and you want to review that and have them report out every week. Are they on track or off track? And if it's off track, is that an issue that needs to be processed? We talk about issues and opportunities and close with a corrective action plan to keep that metric on track. When you get everyone in your organization working that way, your life as a visionary is much easier because all this stuff is getting owned and solved a level down from you. You still get to oversee it all, monitor it all, inspect it all, but you don't have to own each one of those. So,
that's so
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I just going back to the conversation about ownership. That's what allows you to sleep at night is because the numbers aren't weighing on you alone. Everyone has a piece of the data and of the dashboard. And not only what is it, but what are we going to do about it if it's not on track?
Now, ultimately, you want everyone in your organization, not just your leadership team watching a dashboard, every individual, even down at the line level, owning 1 to 3 metrics that they have to keep on track that support your overarching scorecard and your company plan and vision. Ultimately, every individual owning 1 to 3 metrics. So you think about that. Like how many line staff, if you ask them what number do they need to hit, have numbers in their head that they're working to hit or meet each day. Just one example I wanted to share with you is there's a story of Carnegie Mellon. I'm sure you're all familiar with that name. They had a manufacturing plant. let's say they had 20, 30 manufacturing plants at one point in time. They had a poor performing plant. The visionary or the operational leader went into that plant, and what did they do? They wrote a metric on the floor, spray paint number. You're doing, I'm just going to make up a number, 20 batches per day. Leading manufacturing plant is doing 100, let's say 50 batches a day. How can you beat your number? And so because they defined a metric or a number and then challenged the team, that's all they did. Each group that came in, let's say, tried to up the number. It was over the course of a short period of time that lowest level manufacturing plant became the leading manufacturing producer of all the plants, because they had a number and they knew they were challenged to beat it, and they gamified it and rallied the team around being creative in a variety of different ways to up the number. So that's what a number does at an individual basis. You all know that. And then if you get a set of those distributed across your leadership team and their departments, it just starts to work like magic. Also, one last point. The scorecard is the outcome of everything else you're doing. So some people think, well, scorecard, yeah, I could do that, not do that. But all these other things, all these other 6 components that Ashley and the Boutique Hub are working to improve, show up as the results they can monitor on the scorecard. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Did that thing we tried over there, did that help or did it take away? So it gives you a tool for sensing and adjusting your activity within your organization based on outcomes.
Very helpful. So I'll break this down how the Boutique Hub uses our scorecard, Tom, just for clarity for everybody, because you might be thinking, so do you share all numbers with every employee on the team? And I would say we have a leadership team scorecard, which is all numbers, right? Sales, we track profit margin, all the things. But then each individual team has their own scorecard as well. So marketing team, obviously, we know what they would measure. Development team measures different things. Hub inventory team, membership team, all the things. They all have their own individual scorecards. And then as a company, there's things that we measure together. So there's different levels of, I would say, who has access to what data on the scorecard. But I just want to encourage everyone listening, thinking about retail specifically. Tom talked about leading and lagging indicators. Sales are a lagging indicator. It's what already happened. So more important than just saying, here's our sales goal, go get it. That's really not the goal. It's your traffic first and foremost. We could go traffic by channel. It could be, if you want to get really detailed in marketing, it's your open rates, it's your click-through rates, it's all those things. It's also your margins along the way. It's your sales by category, it's your sales by vendor, it's your markdowns per category, markdowns per vendor. We could go into all kinds of detail, but it's all these little numbers, right, that make up the big number, which is sales. So don't get lost just on sales alone, because ultimately that's not the goal. For us at the Hub, I will tell you the most important thing that we measure and how we measure our 5 and 7 year vision is email addresses. So our goal is to change people's lives, and we know we can change a life by changing a business. So how do we measure that? It's not a sales number at all. It's how many emails can we capture, because we know if we've captured an email, someone's consumed our content, and hopefully that content is life-changing for them. So there's all kinds of ways to, slice and dice what those numbers are for you. Yeah. Any other things you would add in terms of data, Tom?
No, I think you brought up an important part, though, is your core processes that we're not going to talk about. Ideally, if you have a core process or you have core processes, if you think of the process pipeline flow that Ashley was just talking about, it might be conversations that lead to engagements, that lead to converted clients, that lead to onboarded clients. If you think of that particular process flow, there's a conversion rate, there's a number at each phase, and a conversion rate that you need to hit ultimately a satisfied customer or client in the end. Those conversion rates could be put on your scorecard. Those should be metrics that a department is monitoring and looking for. If I do a change for this phase of the onboarding, am I going to end up with more conversions? Oh, okay, I tried some new things. My conversion rate went up. That's great. or it went down, that's wrong, so I'm going to try something different. So linking your process metrics to your scorecard is really important as well. But you got to have those processes identified, kind of mapped out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And spend a little time thinking about the critical conversion metrics that you want to monitor and manage to make sure you're optimizing your flow through what you'll call your core process pipeline.
Perfect. So what we hit on today was people, vision, data. And once again, the three pieces we did not hit on, which you can read about in the book or Google, however you want to do it, or talk to Tom, are issues, traction, and process.
Yeah.
So Tom, a couple last questions, because I know this podcast has got a little longer than normal, but we could talk for another 2 hours to be real. But a couple behind the scenes questions. On the Boutique Hub team, on the leadership team, who's the teacher's pet?
Oh, teacher's pet. Well, Eric, your husband, of course.
He's your teacher's pet. Okay, who is the most unruly student?
Most unruly student. Do you really want to ask me the question?
I do. Yeah, tell them about our team. I don't know who's
Well,
the unruly.
I can tell, this is just my opinion, okay? So my opinion. And part of this is my own personal chemistry and who I would gravitate towards getting along with. Jeff is certainly a driver.
Yeah.
And so we both are sports, right? Involved in sports.
Yep.
We have that competitive attitude. It's like, let's set the goal and shit, let's just do whatever we need to do to take that hit mountain, right? A lot of collateral damage, maybe, in getting there, but that's what drives us. Less on the soft side, less on the soft tissues, and just like, let's get some stuff done. So probably where I would, and we haven't talked about this before. So
no, I'm putting you on the spot.
Does that surprise you?
No, I would totally call Jeff the unruly student, because you're like, I think when we sit in those meetings and you can see his wheels turning, you're like, what's going to come out of his mouth next? And sometimes it will totally buck what everyone else is talking about, but ultimately it steers us to a better place through conversation.
Yeah, and you have great staff. They're all individually good, and they all bring different skills. Some of the things that just stand out about him, though, is he takes absolute ownership, right, of helping you and Eric build a stronger business. And not that none of the other ones don't. It's just he's very verbal about it. So expressive, right? So you know where he stands. Takes ownership, also takes accountability, and holds other people accountable, which is important too. That peer accountability, holding each other accountable. And he is so focused on getting, and I know I probably shouldn't say shit done. And also what shouldn't get done, right? He's an example of saying, hey, we don't have the capacity to do that, or let's look at the data. What's the return on that going to be? I'm using him as an example. Every one of your staff members does this. He's just a little more verbal and maybe a little more similar in my style, which is really direct.
Very direct.
Sometimes gets us into trouble.
Yeah. I love that. I'm so proud of our team. I just think we have such a great leadership team. Like you said, they all bring something so different to the table, but every one of them, when they're sitting there, and again, you can see their wheels turning, every one of them brings so much value in their observations and how they contribute to conversations. So many good things.
We haven't taken you through this tool yet, but the Lencioni Working Genius. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. So everyone has, there's 6 working genius models for each individual. Everyone has 2 really strong strengths, right? And when you get a team together that covers all 6 of the working geniuses, like magic starts to happen, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to go off on another tangent, which might add a couple more minutes, but I would suggest you take a look at that tool, right? Because I'm in a pet hospital, which is a client of mine. 2 owners, male, female, like you and Eric. The doctor is the female. She's the primary owner. The husband is helping. He's the co-person. She wonders a lot. He discerns. So there's wonder, invention, discern, and there's a progression all the way down to producing product, right? Delivering product. She wonders, he discerns. They skip the innovate step. So she wonders if we should do a mobile pet unit. He discerns that it's too costly, not going to happen. I don't know how we're going to reach new clients. So he kind of nixes it. What they realize through looking at the Lencioni model is we're missing the innovation step. We have it at a lower level in our ability. And we need to stop before we discern too strongly and rule it out. Really look at the options. So anyway, it's good for that. But that's another soft issue tool.
That's really helpful. All of us could use that. All of us listening could use that. All right. So here's your chance. Last question. Yeah. Any other observations you would share about working with Boutique Hub team, good or bad? I'll let you have the floor.
Well, you guys, you started off, you were frustrated, frustrated for the reasons we talked about, right? You wanted more autonomy. You wanted more structure. You wanted your business to operate more seamlessly and effortlessly so that you can scale and grow and still have freedom. I still remember that.
Yeah.
You're well on your way. I don't know if you've achieved your final goal yet, but you and Eric and your leadership team have really stuck with and followed the process and embraced it. And again, I'll just repeat. This EOS system, tools, and disciplines are estimated to be in over 150,000 organizations. It's been around, I'm afraid to say how long because you're going to think that it's an old, stodgy system. It's really a lean, agile, effective system. You wouldn't get over 150,000 organizations, entrepreneurial organizations, using a system if it wasn't effective. So it's been tried and tested. So if you're an open-minded visionary, you want to run a better business and have a better life, you engage this system, follow the process, you will get the results. You will get the results that you so probably want. That at night you lay frustrated, like, how am I going to, I can't sustain this forever. It will help you. And I'm just trying to send a heartfelt message from all my personal experience, my corporate experience, all the entrepreneurs that I'm helping that are so frustrated, lack of control, profit issues, people issues, feel like they're hitting the ceiling, nothing's working, just frustrated, laying awake at night, wondering how they're going to make it through the next day.
Yeah. With
all sincerity, whether you use someone like me or you just self-implement, take a look at the system. It could make a tremendous transformational difference in your business and your personal life.
Completely agree. Tom, thanks so much for your time today. This has been incredible. You guys, I will link up in the show notes today, again, the book Traction, probably Rocket Fuel, and a few other EOS books as well. There are implementers around the country, but Tom is who we choose, and you're near and dear to our heart. We'll link up your information as well. If anyone has any questions, they can certainly reach out to you. Tom, thanks for all you've done for me personally and for our entire team. This has changed our life. More importantly, it's changed the lives of our family and our kids and really given us our life back. So thank you from the entire community and staff at the Boutique Hub for all that you do.
And Ashley, just thank you for the opportunity to share with your community the value of EOS. And just to say, I'm open for a call. I do 90-minute overviews with leadership teams. Those are all free of cost. My goal is to help you determine whether EOS could help you, whether it be a good fit, whether it's best to implement yourself or get a coach. I'll answer any questions you want. No obligation on my part. My goal is just to help you find the best fit and run a better business and live a better life.
I love it. Tom, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope that you loved it. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a rating and review down below for a chance to be one of our featured listeners each and every week. For more information on our spirit of community over competition and how to access complete show notes and bonus downloads from our guests, head on over to theboutiquehub.com and join the community. We'll see you next week.